Hello and welcome to Screen Scene. I'm Harold McHugh.
And hi, everybody. I'm Kathy Andrews. Welcome to today's show.
9 days after the death of rapper-actor Tupac Shakur, the Nation of Islam gathered individuals from the rap industry together in Harlem to promote peace in the violent world of gangster rap. This Day of Atonement brought together an all-black audience of 600 seated, while hundreds listened over loudspeakers. On the streets, the New York leader of the nation said it was a day to honor a black man who is a child of God who was murdered.
Some of the individuals who attended were Dougie Fresh, Fat Joe the Gangsta, Grandmaster Flash, and Q-Tip. Absent were Biggie Smalls and his producer, Sean Puffy Combs. Death Row President Suge Knight was also unable to attend, but he does speak out. Danita Harris has his story.
Thanks, Kathy. Death Row Records president and CEO Suge Knight has a lot to say about the recent death of rapper-actor Tupac Shakur. To him, he was more than just an artist. He was the little brother he never had.
He was my little brother. He used to tell me I was his big brother. And he did a song that we didn't release it. And he did this song. He said, we got to say this song, not just my album, so I want to do something real special. Because he did a song that you ain't never had a friend like me. And we used to joke. And I used to tell him, well, what you saying, you ain't never had a friend like me? He said, yeah, but you ain't never had a friend like me. You know, it's to go back and forth and stuff. So, and he never had a brother. I never had a brother, you know. So I guess God gave me him, and God gave me me. Before the incident, Pac saved my life also. Reason why I say he saved my life because the average person gets shot in the head. The first thing you think is, damn, I'm about to die. You know, a headshot is different. And there was blood coming everywhere. And my concern was him. I said, you hit? He said, I'm hit. So I said, I'm going to get you to a hospital right now. So I'm driving like a madman, trying to, get help to help him. And the first thing he said, laughingly, jokingly, loudly, is, I need a hospital? You the one shot in the head. Don't you think you need a hospital? When you lose a best friend or little brother, that's something you can't replace. Can't nobody walk up to me and say, you know what, I'm going to take Tupac's place. I tell them they out their mind, you can't take Tupac's place, Pac is Pac. Force that place in my heart that I have for Pac can't be replaced. You thank God for that person in your life. You wonder why that person, is out your life. And, when a person hurt, you say stuff like, God, if you'll be all right, you can have the money, you can have the cars, you can have whatever, the material things, you can have my business. I'm willing to start all over and be homeless for him to be okay. I would, give up anything. It got so deep to a point where you give your life. And I would have gave my life. I mean, if I could have walked in and somebody said, you know what? You got one choice. You switch places. I would have did it. Tupac to me was a way of life. It was a part of my life. And what I mean by that, because the relationship we had, even if he wasn't an artist, if he woke up one day and said, you know what, I don't want to do records no more. I don't want to do movies no more. I just want to kick it. I'd be like, well, shit, let's kick it. Let's just do just that. So it never was like business. It wasn't like I had love for him because he made great records. It was like, it was the individual. It's gonna be a long life ahead of me, a long road, because it's not gonna be a day that I don't think about him. It's not gonna be a day I don't miss him. So I put his name on my body, on my arm, which is, say Tupac.
Tomorrow we'll bring you more of the Suge Knight interview, so be sure to tune in. Back to you guys.
All right, thank you very much, Tanita. And tune in tonight as BET Talk looks at this weekend's Day of Atonement. Do they really have anything to atone for? The Goody Mob will be their guests. That's tonight at 11 p.m. And coming back at you, LA's new hotspot, Billboard Live. We'll give you the lowdown.
Rapper Tupac Shakur's death has left a void in the hearts of many fans. The controversy over the life he lived and rapped about has brought worldwide focus to the art of hip-hop. In an effort to bring focus to the life of Tupac Shakur and to begin mending the hip-hop community as one, this past Sunday, the Nation of Islam held a Hip-Hop Day of Atonement.
Does the rap community have something to atone for? Can the hip-hop community turn the tragedy of Tupac Shakur's death into a positive lesson for the millions of fans still mourning his passing? Hello and good evening. I'm Tavis Smiley. Welcome to BET Talk. Our phone lines are open right now. Give us a phone call. Our numbers are 1-888-BET-6302. Residents of the D.C. metro area can call us at 202-832-0321. Joining us to help answer your questions this evening is the man who called together the Hip-Hop Day of Atonement this past Sunday in Harlem, the Nation of Islam's National Youth Representative, Minister Conrad Muhammad. And we thank you for joining us, Minister.
Thank you, brother.
Good to see you. Let me start by asking you very simply, what was the purpose of yesterday's Hip-Hop Day of Atonement?
Well, the purpose of yesterday's meeting was to keep the spirit of the Million Man March alive. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as you know, last year around this time, called the Million Man March. And of course, to keep that spirit alive, and as a precursor to the upcoming World Day of Atonement, which will take place October the 16th at the United Nations in New York, and in light of the tragic and unfortunate murder of Tupac Shakur, we felt it was time to call a Hip-Hop Day of Atonement, to call the hip-hop nation back into focus, to call them back to sanity and a course of action that will uplift our people and our community.
Let me ask you, because I'm a bit lost here.
Yes.
How does one atone for the death of Tupac Shakur? Who is atoning?
Yes.
How does one atone? What's that all about?
The atonement process is basically for that which led up to the death of Tupac Shakur. In other words, we're calling the hip-hop nation to atone for degenerating into basically what has become a genocidal, fratricidal a conflict with the glorification of violence, with the glorification of misogynistic lyrics, with the glorification of the criminalization of young black people. We have played into our enemy's hands. And so we need to atone for that and get back into focus. It's ironic because the hip-hop nation and rap music and hip-hop culture originally started in New York as an alternative to violence and to gang activity. And so we've got to call that back into focus so that our young people can stop killing each other, stop genocide, so that we as young black people can be contributors to a great black nation and not destroyers of a great black legacy.
Speaking of young people, I certainly want to take a good number of phone calls tonight for you and to hear from our audience what they have to say in the days since Tupac Shakur's tragic and untimely death. But let me quote something that Kid Capri, who spoke at your service yesterday, said, and I quote, "You as the individual have to change yourself. You can't blame it on the white man," end quote. Which leads one to ask how true, in fact, you think that statement is. And it certainly begs the question as to how much blame ought to, in fact, be placed on the artist and how much blame ought to, in fact, be placed on the white-owned companies. Where do you come down on that? And where did the speakers come down on that yesterday?
Well, of course, the atonement process deals with your relationship with God. And it is true that when we develop a relationship with the Creator, that is a one-on-one relationship. So you cannot blame the white man, you cannot blame the society, and you cannot use that as an excuse to not develop a relationship with your Creator and get right with your Creator. However, as we look at the death of Tupac Shakur, as we look at gangster rap, and as we look at the criminalization of young people in the hip-hop nation, you have to hold the record company executives and the record companies responsible for that which is being broadcast throughout the world. It's one thing to talk negatively, to use profane language, to act in an antisocial way on a street corner, on 127th Street in Harlem, but it's another thing to be projected around the world doing that. And I'm saying that these young people are not projecting themselves around the world. There are people making millions of dollars off of this industry.
Let's take some phone calls, and let's start with Samuel in Florida. Thank you for calling, Samuel. You're on BET Talk.
My question was, I just wanted to say that a lot of us have moved out into the suburbs. We've made our money, and we look back and say the hip-hop nation, they're doing this, they're doing that. Where is the black community? Where are the black males that, like ourselves, like yourselves, why aren't we out there getting to the youth before they get enthralled into the hip-hop culture and learn to be ghetto kids and sell drugs?
Let me get Minister Muhammad to answer that. We've got a minute before the break. Yeah. What about that? The question he raises. We see a lot of reaction in the days since his death, but what about proactive activities?
No, I don't think that's correct, and I think particularly in light of the Million Man March, leaders like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Ben Tavis, and others have been working tirelessly with young people. And one of the themes of yesterday was from the scripture, wherein it is written that we need older men for counsel and young men for war. Our young men need more counsel. So while that is taking place, there needs to be more activity from older leaders in terms of directing and guiding youth.
We are going to take a quick break. This is BET Talk. I'm Tavis Smiley. We're joined tonight by Minister Conrad Muhammad, the organizer of yesterday's Hip Hop Day of Atonement in Harlem. We're back after this with more of your phone calls. Don't go away.
Crack cocaine to black communities. Today here in Washington, Reverend Joseph Lowry, Dick Gregory, and talk show host Joe Madison were arrested in front of the Drug Enforcement Agency. Earlier, Gregory said the pressure is just beginning.
We're going to the DEA headquarters. We're going to demand that they give us some answers. And if they don't give us no answers, we're going to put this crime tape around their door since we have located the criminal.
And you see women, you understand what I'm saying? So as you see gangster, you should see positive, you understand what I'm saying? Even from a Biggie Smalls. And from a Tupac, he presented a duality to a sense, because he may have said however you want it, but he did say, dear mama. You understand what I'm saying? He may have said, I get around, but he did say, keep your head up.
Welcome back to BET Talk. I'm Tavis Smiley. We are taking more of your phone calls in just a moment. We are joined tonight by Minister Conrad Muhammad, who organized yesterday's Hip Hop Day of Atonement in Harlem. Let me ask you, let me start by saying, I believe, as I'm sure many people who watch the show tonight believe, that rap music is a viable art form. Right. But I'm wondering how really possible it is to have an honest discussion, an honest dissection, if you will, of rap music, and its good, its bad, and the ugly associated with it. How possible is it to have that discussion when so many in the hip-hop community feel attacked personally when you try to engage in that debate? Is it possible to even have that kind of conversation?
I think it is possible. In fact, we have had that dialogue and that conversation. I think it is true that many young black and Latinos in the hip-hop nation feel attacked. But you have to understand that these are young people who have been attacked all their lives. Tupac Shakur was born basically in jail. So what I think that we have to do is follow the example of leaders like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who desires to teach young people, not to attack them, but in order to teach them, you have to first gain their confidence. I don't believe that Mrs. C. Dolores Tucker is wrong in challenging the lyrics that degrade our women, in challenging the lyrics that degrade the dignity of our people. However, you don't attack our young people. These are our mothers. These are our fathers. You merely bring them in and with love and guidance teach them, and the youth are willing to listen to those that show love for them.
Let's take another phone call. Donna in Maryland, thanks for calling. You're on BET Talk.
Thank you. I listen to my children's songs. I listen to the rap music that they listen to. Tupac not only talked about killing, genocide, drugs, women. He talked about women on welfare to keep their head up, be strong. He also talked about thanking his mother of how she struggled to raise him. He's not only a bad person, but he did have some good things in him. And I think it's up to the parents to talk to the children and, let the conversation discuss on what do you mean by hoochie mama and all this other things. It's up to the parents to talk to their children about that.
Donna, let me ask Minister Muhammad, how difficult is it possible, in fact, to separate the misogyny, to separate the language, the foul language, and the exposing and the encouraging, in fact, of using drugs and smoking blunt, etc. Is it possible to separate the good from the bad?
Well, the Honorable Louis Farrakhan teaches that you really cannot blame the clay for what the potter made. It is true that when you look at the hip-hop nation and rap music in particular, there's a lot of negative and there's a lot of good. And of course, this often is the reality of our young people. And this is why they say we've got to keep it real. But what we're encouraging them to do is not keep it real, but actually work to change the reality. They call this generation the post-soul generation. And I believe it's because, unlike previous generations of black people that have suffered and struggled through tremendous suffering and tremendous obstacles, we have lost our spirituality, our connection with the Creator, which helps you to look into a negative situation and see a way out or a light at the end of the tunnel.
Let me ask you very quickly before this break comes up. Some rap artists, according to your spokesperson in the New York Times yesterday, have signed a pledge to end violence in their music. Tell me about that very quickly.
Well, I don't know who this spokesperson is.
Well, New York Times.
Okay.
I didn't say it, the New York Times.
But it is true that the East Coast rappers that were present yesterday declared, and we sent out a statement and a message to the world, that we want an end to violence, and we want an end to rap music as we presently know it. We want to bring about and usher in a new era for rap music, and we want an end to the East Coast, West Coast schism, which is largely media manufactured.
When we come back from this break, I want to talk more about that East Coast, West Coast friction, and whether or not it's a reality or whether or not it's, in fact, a myth perpetrated by the media. Tavis, Smiley, we're taking a break here on BET Talk. We're going to be back in just a moment with more of your phone calls. Don't go away.
Oh, dirty bastard. Because, I love y'all. That's why. And I don't want to be no role model or no crazy. The media is bad enough. I love y'all children, all my children, white or black, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just want to keep it positive from now on.
I want to go to a phone call in just a second. Welcome back to BET Talk. But before I do that, I want to follow up on the bumper we just saw.
Yes.
We saw rap artist Oh Dirty Bastard say he's going to change his name.
Yes.
With all due respect to the artist, isn't it really more about changing the message than it is about changing one's name?
Yes, but the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And when a paraplegic moves a finger, you have to celebrate. And I think that yesterday was very significant because when you see rappers like that brother there, formerly known as ODB, now change his name to Osiris, that is a sign that we are moving in the right direction.
Let's go to Paul in Texas. Paul in Texas, thanks for calling. You're on BET Talk.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Good, how are you?
All right. I did have a question. I wanted to know why none of the representatives from Death Row or Bad Boy Records wasn't at the Hip Hop Atonement. Biggie Smalls and Puffy did say that they was going to be there in attendance, and it didn't seem like they had anything better to do, getting arrested the same day and things like that. So I want to know if you all know why that was not.
Paul, thank you for your phone call. We had a little trouble hearing you with your telephone, your TV turned up, rather. But let me ask you, he raised a good issue. How much headway did you really, in fact, make yesterday when the persons involved in this so-called East Coast, West Coast feud, nobody showed up?
Well, actually, that's not true. We did have representatives from Death Row Records yesterday, and in fact, they were very, very in tune with what took place yesterday.
But it's fair to say none of the artists the caller mentioned actually showed up.
Well, of course, a murder has taken place, and the press has really created a very serious situation. So everyone is very sensitive now. We reached out to Death Row, but they were in mourning, and we understood that they could not participate. And of course, Sean Puffy Combs and his family was represented yesterday by Sister Soldier, and they're willing to sit and talk. And yesterday was just the beginning. We are going to continue to do this until we're able to sit all the parties down and resolve this schism.
Teresa in Virginia, thanks for calling. You're on BET Talk.
Yes, I like to say that Tupac Shakur, he was a great entertainer, but this young man, he has been in trouble many times before. He has been shot and almost lost his life previously. And he should have taken that and decided to turn his life around, because many people don't get chances to renounce themselves. It's like he turned his back on God, saying that, yes, you've given me my life again, but I'm still going to continue in the bad ways that I have been living. He should have took that and showed the young people that that isn't the way that they are supposed to be living.
Teresa, thank you for your phone call. Minister, certainly there were complexities in Mr. Shakur's life. What lessons should the young people take from his life? And while I'm on that, let me throw this out. With all due respect to the persons who turned out to your Hip Hop Day of Atonement rally in Harlem yesterday, I suspect, not having been there, that most of them were adults. It seems to me, though, that the real target, the real group we ought to be going after in terms of trying to influence are the children. How do we move from beyond the adult hip-hop community to really getting to those kids that Teresa in Virginia just talked about?
Well, that's why you have to deal with the adults. When you talk about Tupac Shakur, you're talking about one that influenced a tremendous number of people. So if we can reach those rappers, those communicators that are projecting images, projecting styles to our young people, then we can help to turn around tens of thousands of young people that are emulating the artist. But I want to say in response to the sister's call, we have to resist the temptation of condemning our own youth. Tupac Shakur died at 25 years old. Many people make mistakes but evolve later. Unfortunately, he was not able to do that. But I say that if we're going to attack our young people, then we've got to attack these so-called responsible record company industry executives that make millions of dollars promoting and projecting this kind of thing.
More than a few people who spoke at your rally yesterday decried black-on-black crime, as well they should have.
Yes.
But isn't the real irony here that Tupac Shakur, no doubt, died as a victim of black-on-black crime? What specifically, if anything, was said about that yesterday at the rally?
Oh, every speaker, as you said, denounced black-on-black violence. And we also reminded the young brothers and sisters of what the purpose of hip-hop was. Originally, as I said, it was created to be an alternative to violence. And we want to refocus our young people in that vein.
April from New York, thanks for calling. You're on BET Talk.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is April, and I'm calling to say that we have Tupac Shakur dying every day.
That's correct.
How come we only come together when there's a tragedy or a celebrity that somebody gets killed like that? We have black children getting killed every day by drive-bys, by guns, by gangs, by this, by that. When is it going to stop? We need our black men to come together, not just for a day, every week, to support the black women, to support the little children, the little boys, the little girls. We need a change, and it has to be every week, not only when a tragedy comes.
April, thank you for your phone call. Minister, very quickly.
Well, that's why I'm proud to be a member of the Nation of Islam and a follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because we have an ongoing proactive program with examples such as the Million Man March, our mosque meetings, and our Fruit of Islam men's training program. These are ongoing examples, and there are other examples in the black community. Let us resist being pessimists or cynics, and let's look for the good. We're right now on the eve of the upcoming Black Political Convention in St. Louis that will take place this weekend. We're on the eve of the upcoming World Day of Atonement, where again, black men will gather and once again be instructed and reminded of the pledge that we took at the Million Man March. So there's a lot good happening. Unfortunately, our brother Tupac Shakur was murdered, but sometimes Almighty God, Allah, uses someone that is beloved by many to make a profound point. And I think this death will be a turning point from this day forth.
We're back in just a moment with more of your phone calls, but first, this is BET Talk. Don't go away.
the power and energy in words. Tupac prophesied his death many, many times over. In fact, nothing is more poignant than the last video that he produced, which showed his own death. And so I think that the same way, if we put out messages that are contrary to that, the end result might be a little different.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night with more BET Talk. Let's take one more phone call, though. Lawrence from Ohio, you're on BET Talk. Thanks for calling.
Yes, how you doing, gentlemen?
Good.
I'd first like to say, Mr. Smiley, Russell Simmons told you America's favorite house Negro. I think time and time again I showed that you defended O.J. Simpson, and as a brother, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask, what's going to happen after this now, and that some of the representation, or not everyone showed up, or are you going to have another forum after this to address this issue? Because as an athlete myself, I don't want to see something like this just die down and then have another episode maybe come up later on. I think that would be very tragic if something like that happened.
Lawrence, thank you for your phone call. Minister?
Yes, again, this is a first step in a healing process. Right now on the West Coast, our minister, Tony Muhammad, and Danny Bakewell and others are working to do something on the West Coast, and we ultimately hope to keep this going until these young people are able to sit down with the Honorable Louis Farrakhan and other black men to help them resolve this problem. And we just But we just want to say to our young brothers that are listening that, you know, the scripture talks about Samson, and we know that our young people are angry, but we cannot be so angry that we destroy ourselves. Samson was strong, but he wasn't wise, so he pushed the temple down on the enemy, but he pushed it also down on himself.
In the final analysis, what should, or what will, in fact, Tupac Shakur be remembered for?
Well, I think Tupac Shakur is representative of the plight of black males in this society. He was a brilliant young black man that never really had an opportunity to manifest his full gifts and talents. However, I believe he will be remembered as perhaps the James Dean of hip-hop, a tragic figure, but I think great good can come from his life.
What kind of good do you think can, in fact, come from his life?
Well, I think that his life can be, to many youth, an example of how we are not to go and how we are not to end up so tragically. But I think that he is like, would have been perhaps like a Malcolm X figure. I think he would have transcended his present state of thinking and mind. It's ironic. Ted Kennedy can have the Chappaquiddick incident as a young man and grow up later to become a distinguished senator. Unfortunately, in the black community, we don't get a chance to make mistakes. Our mistakes tend to be...
Here are some Rich Smack Spotlight. Screen Scene is taking you in true forward motion.
Coming up, a Tupac update and our second part exclusive interview with Death Row President Suge Knight.
And she's got more than just the right stuff. We take an up-close and personal look with Vanessa Williams.
And BET continues to make all the right moves, keeping you informed.
We gave you Jazz 24/7. Now we are in motion towards movies.
And Jamie Foster Brown's on the scene, giving you the sister-to-sister gossip.
We are on the scene and on the screen. Next.
Hey, and welcome to Screen Scene. I'm Kathy Andrews.
And I'm Harold McCoo. Good to have you with us, and thanks for joining us. For at least one rapper, Sunday's Hip Hop Summit in New York has led to a new attitude and a new name. The rapper who calls himself Old Dirty Bastard says the spirit of atonement has caused him to change his name. The rapper with the group Wu-Tang Clan says he will now call himself Osiris. That's the name of a mythological Egyptian god of the underworld.
No arrests, no suspects, and few clues. And that about sums up the continuing investigation into the killing of rap star Tupac Shakur. Continuing our coverage of the story is Danita Harris. Danita.
Thanks, Kathy. In part 2 of our exclusive interview with Death Row Records President Suge Knight, he tells us why he thinks Tupac died and he lived. You'll also hear how this whole experience has left him nostalgic and solemn.
I liked about him is that our relationship, we didn't do our relationship for the people. We didn't go and say, look, we had to fight. Look, we're at this club, or we doing this. We did it for me and him. We would go in there, have fun, and we was real deep on a lot of stuff. When you're real deep, we was at the point where we used to have conversations. And I said, you know what? I work hard at what I do. You work hard at what you do. We're a perfect team. And if something happened to go wrong and I'm not there, you know you got to pick up the pace and make it happen. You know, the guy sent Pac to the earth to do certain things, and he done. He represented us, not only me, I mean people in general. And he probably did so much good and made so many things happen that it was time for him to make better things happen in heaven. And for me, maybe I got a lot of more stuff to do. The sad thing about it is a lot of people who maybe really didn't know Tupac, didn't know him to love him, they're trying to use this opportunity. If they're an actor or an actress who's forgotten, who's out the business, they want to go and say, I'm going to attend some type of service and do something for Tupac. Don't try to use my homeboy to get back in the game. Or don't go out there and bootleg no T-shirts and keychains about Tupac where he don't get the money and sell them on the street. Don't use him. I mean, that's the part that's real sad, how people trying to do that. Don't turn him leaving here into a circus. Tupac is on the level of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King. I mean, you see they live forever. They got holidays. I mean, if we can't get a holiday around the world, at least we can get one in my neighborhood for Tupac. I mean, we'll celebrate, his birthday every year.
Tupac may be gone, but Suge Knight says he will never be forgotten. And I'm sure a lot of his fans feel the same way. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Anita.